All right, so for our next speaker, we're going to be having Arman. Arman has a lot of experience in the financial world. He comes 20 years in energy and finance, 7 years in the Canadian financial services. He is going to be talking about how to plan your future when it comes to your insurance and how to protect it. There's different types of insurances that he'll walk you through, how they work, and why each one is important. Arman, over to you.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you to all who made the time to come in today. I'm just basically going to be going through the who, what, why, all the basic 101 questions around life and health insurance. Regarding this first slide, obviously, a lot of people are asking, like, is life insurance for me or is health insurance for me? So let's talk a little bit about who is, eligible or who should be getting life and health insurance. So on the first of that list is people with dependents. That's pretty straightforward. A lot of people assume that when we talk about dependents, it's usually children. But what a lot of people face, not just in Canada, but throughout the world, is people have to take care of siblings sometimes, or let's say they have elderly parents that they take care of. So these are all things that go part of that insurance assessment in order to determine what the needs are. The second talks about self-employed individuals. So typically people who are salaried are, typically getting access to some kind of work benefits through their corporation or through the company. And in the case of self-employed, if they don't do that on their own, they essentially don't have anything. So I would say the gap is a little bit bigger. And therefore, they need to be extra cautious regarding their insurance planning and insurance needs. History of health problems in the family. So in the past, having dealt with hundreds and hundreds of clients, there's always been conversations about people having faced, cancer or dementia or, heart disease or something like that with, an aunt or a grandparent. So these are always factors that come into conversations and go into consideration for people to get health insurance. Starting a family, that's pretty straightforward. As you can see on that first picture there, you got the couple with the 2 little kids. Obviously, when we make that decision to bring another person into this world, we're obviously thinking for the next 20, 30 years of having to take care of them unconditionally. So that is always going to be a factor when talking about insurance. Workers in high-risk professions. So if you look at that icon there or that picture with the person on that crane, what do you think the impact would be to that person's family if there was an accident at work that day? What if they didn't survive, or what if they did but weren't able to fulfill the duties of their occupation properly? Those are particular reasons why families or individuals should look into these types of coverages. Workers in highly specialized professions. So I'm sure each and every one of you has dealt with, doctors, nurses, lawyers, accountants, people who go through a lot of years of education with a heavy, upfront investment to be able to fulfill those career goals. But the question is, what if those career goals are cut short? What if something happens along the way? What happens to their income ability throughout the next few years or decades within that career? That's another reason why, it's important for them to look into these types of coverages. Frequent travelers, obviously, the more places they go, the more unexpected situations they can face. Always a consideration. Assets to protect, particularly taxes. If you look at that picture there with the house and an umbrella on top of it, what do you think the financial implications would be for your family when you pass on your home to them when you pass? What kind of tax bill do you think they would get from the CRA? What can be done to mitigate that? That's another consideration. And of course, protecting loved ones from medical expenses and funeral costs. So throughout life, there's a lot of uncertainty that happens along the way. And we just want to make sure that we have resources in place that can contribute to things or to help our family keep moving forward, no matter what comes, in our destiny. Next slide, please. So We've talked about who should get life insurance, which is pretty much everybody. But let's talk about why people should get life and health insurance. So when you look at this graph, typically in our working years, we're talking about the wealth accumulation phase. We're working hard, we're saving money. There's an upward slope because we're building that wealth, all until the point of retirement, where we start distributing that wealth for the last 20 to 25 years of our life. So what happens along the way there, and what a lot of people don't consider, is they always think about the positives, but what if there was a premature passing, either yourself or a member of your household? What if there was a serious illness? What if there was a serious accident? Would that graph look the way it looks right now if something like that was to happen? And that points to the very foundation of why people should have life and health insurance. So if there was something that happened along the way, what would happen to the financial security for dependents? What would happen if you had debts along that way and there was a premature passing? Could you still afford to accumulate wealth if, the head of your household was to pass away? What if there was a serious illness and you had to cover the cost of medical expenses and treatments? What if those treatments weren't available locally? What if you had to travel far away? Also, is your income protected? Is your lifestyle protected? If something was to happen to you, either by injury or accident, would you still be able to keep that upward slope in your accumulation years? Or even if you consider the distribution as well, would your retirement savings erode faster if something was to happen and you didn't have any insurance? To avoid financial hardship from unexpected events, that pretty much covers several of these points that I've been talking about above, and also to take advantage of tax benefits. So when we talk about tax benefits, again, a lot of people don't understand that having insurance mitigates their tax exposure. And if you're interested in that topic, we can always, go further on that in a one-to-one. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the types of life and health insurance that people can get through Experior and in the marketplace. So when we talk about life insurance, typically that falls into two classifications. One is the temporary life insurance, which starts at a certain point, ends at a certain point, and gives you some options in between that time. And of course, you have the whole life insurance, the permanent insurance, where if you pay permanently, your family is going to get that benefit at the end of the road. And that boils down to the simple whole life insurance, participating whole life insurance, which has a passive investment component built into it. And of course, universal life insurance, if you wanted to take the reins yourself and manage the investments within that life insurance policy. That's life insurance. When we talk about health insurance, particularly the illness part, critical illness covers anywhere between 5 to 25 covered conditions. A lot of folks aren't too worried about, a lot of those conditions, but cancer has hit their family hard. So they would like to have some cancer coverage, because by having that, they get a little bit of a buffer so they can check out, do the treatments they need to do, reestablish priorities in life and move forward. Disability through an illness, not exactly the nicest thing to happen. Some folks have some protection through their work, but have they actually calculated how much they need versus how much they're getting? Is there a gap in between? That's important. And of course, hospitalization, where if you were ill and you had to stay overnight in hospital, certain plans are available to provide some daily or weekly financial funding to help take care of those added expenses for the family. Regarding accidents and injuries, obviously there's an accidental injury plan where it provides daily and weekly benefits if you were hospitalized due to an injury. And disability through an injury is a big one too, for reasons that we talked about before, about maintaining that upward slope in your life, making sure that even when something unexpected happens, you still have resources available to keep you on track and moving towards your goals. Next slide, please. Okay, so a lot of folks, they consider life insurance, they consider health insurance. We know who would go after it. We know why they would go after it. What would be the benefit to them from having taken such steps? So first one's pretty straightforward, financial protection. Instead of having to go through GoFundMe's to get some money from people that you don't even know, wouldn't it be better if you grab the bull by the horns and got that through your insurance and took care of it? Peace of mind for you, peace of mind for your loved ones, peace of mind for anybody that's has some kind of relationship with you that could be impacted if something was to happen. Access to private healthcare. So obviously in Canada, we're very blessed to have the government healthcare, but I think we've all come to realize that while it's a good facility, it probably doesn't have every single answer we're looking for. So why not have some type of added protection so that, again, you have more options at your disposal? Tax benefits. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, particularly when it comes to, having assets, having tax implications. Insurance can be used to minimize that exposure. And again, if there's interest in that, we can always do a one-on-one session to go into more details. Covers critical illnesses. So 1 in every 2 Canadians are expected to get some form of cancer in their lifetime. When you take into consideration diabetes, heart attack, stroke, and all of these other conditions, the percentage goes above 50%. So by having critical illness coverage in place, you've now put yourself in a situation where if something like that was to happen, you now have a lump sum payment to take care of things for a certain period of time. We offer customized plans. It's never a cookie cutter approach, one size fits all approach. We have to look at each person individually, look at what you have, look at what you need, and see whether there's any recommendations that need to be made in the first place. What are some common misconceptions about life and health insurance? So these are things I've heard from people in the past. Life insurance is only for older people. That may be the case in some cases, but pretty much anybody that has relationships, that has dependents, that has a job they want to protect, it's for everybody. Health insurance is not necessary if you're healthy. Well, actually, health insurance is necessary, and it's usually better to have it when you are healthy, because when you're not healthy, then there's always a risk of not being able to get it in the form of exclusions. Insurance is too expensive. Again, it's very hard to put that as a broad term. Insurance is always dependent on the specific situation of the individual seeking it. If they need more coverage, then you propose more coverage, and it would, probably cost more. But if someone just wanted to, have a short-term coverage and they wanted to cover their mortgage, there's some very, very affordable plans out there. Employer-provided insurance is enough. So can you imagine a company with 10,000 employees all on the same generic benefit plan? Does that benefit plan cover all 10,000s of their needs? Most likely not. Every family is going to have an individual situation, and therefore it's going to require an individual approach. It just may be the case in a certain situation that employer-provided insurance may be enough for those few individuals. But for the majority, you got to dig deep have a good discovery, and to see what exactly are the gap insurances that need to take place. And of course, only the primary breadwinner needs life insurance. I've heard that quite a bit, and the simple reality is that even the other partner who is not generating an income is contributing to that life and to the lifestyle. That individual is giving the primary breadwinner the time and space necessary to make that primary income. Therefore, it is not just for the primary breadwinner. They all need insurance because they all fulfill a very important role in that household. It's been lovely talking about all of these insurance topics with you. If you have any questions, I look forward to hearing them at the end, and thank you.
Thank you, Arman. That's very informative, and hopefully everyone learned the difference between the different types of insurances and why they're important. Just to touch a point on a couple of things you said, I just saw literally 2 days ago, someone had a GoFundMe up because they didn't have insurance. And for them, it's too late. So it's very important to make sure you have your insurances in place. Some people might need more or less, but make sure that you have a plan and you have reviewed it. And the one thing that I've always said is, on the point of insurance is too expensive. It's too expensive not to have it. Looking at the GoFundMe example, well, if they had it, they wouldn't be trying to go and GoFundMe, right? So great points that Arman had there. Appreciate that. If anyone who's watching this on the recording has any information, these are very in-depth topics. So just make sure you reach out to whoever's been working with you to get some more information.